Welcome all of you to day 2 of DealstreetAsia's Asia PE VC Summit. Good morning. My name is Joji Philip and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at DealstreetAsia. Thank you all for being here on day 2 and for your continued support. This was a picture from yesterday. We had a packed full house, lots of insights, and yesterday we were looking at the P and LP themes. And today, we're going to be looking at the VC landscape. Here are some of the speakers who will be joining us today. As I mentioned, we'll be looking at the VC landscape, founders, funded companies, and unicorns. The DealstreetAsia team has put their heart and souls into ensuring that the PE VC Summit is unlike no other industry event out there. It's a culmination of the innovative conversations that we've been having throughout the year. I promise you won't be disappointed. We're going to start the day with a very interesting theme. Our opening panel today is a session on gender diversity in the Southeast Asian VC space. Earlier this year, our team looked at over 1,000 companies in Southeast Asia that had raised funding last year. And we found that startups that were led by, that had a founder or co-founder as women, they only accounted for about 17% of all the capital that was private capital raised in Southeast Asia. But if you take Grab out of the equation, Grab raised about $2.3 billion in debt and equity last year. But if you take Grab out of the equation, startups led by women, either a founder or co-founder, accounted for just under 9% of the total funding in Southeast Asia. Again, our team looked at every single company that raised funding in India last year. And in India, the numbers are even lower. Startups founded by women accounted for about just under 15% of the total funding raised totally last year. India too, if you take out Byju's, which raised close to 2.5 billion last year, then the number is in single-digit percentage terms. After that, we decided to take a look at how women at the decision-making level are doing in the VC space in Southeast Asia. My colleague Deepshika, who put together the report and is also moderating the opening panel, this is the numbers from her report. They're on the screen right now. We looked at, there are over 332 VCs in Southeast Asia, and 77% of them don't have a woman in an investment decision-making role. 66.6% of Asian and global VCs that have a presence in Southeast Asia do not have a woman in a decision-making role in this region. Our opening panel will dwell on this theme more. So what else do we have in the agenda today? We've ensured that our summit is something that you wouldn't get like if you just read DealstreetAsia or Nikkei or FT. We're focused on ensuring that you have the best content. We have a couple of fireside chats and keynotes today. To begin with, we have Nick Nash of Asia Partners, and he's going to take us through a very data-heavy presentation to give his take on where are we today, have we hit the bottom, and where do we go from here. After lunch, we have GGV's Jenny Lee joining us for a session on how VCs can capture value in a downturn as valuations correct. Now, here's something very interesting about Jenny and GGV. During COVID, when she was stuck in Singapore, she did 250 Zoom calls and she raised 2.5 billion. Now that's like an average of 10 million per call. And you want to be hearing from her today. And it's one of the largest funds that was raised during the COVID times. Finally, we wrap up the day with GoTo's Catherine. She's going to be talking about the integration challenges. Now, GoTo is the combination of Gojek and Tokopedia, integration challenges as well as the monetization challenges that Gojek and Tokopedia jointly face. I'm coming to the bunch of the panel discussions that we have today. We have a special panel on decarbonization, what startups can do, because it's a very hot topic these days. A bunch of editorial-led sessions, special panels on that. We have panels on fintech, cross-border SaaS, as well as the Warung Kirana tech scene in both India and Indonesia. We have panels with GPs exploring the themes on why early-stage funding deals in Southeast Asia and India are still hot, as well as what it takes to generate alpha during these turbulent times amidst the funding winter. The other thing that I wanted to touch base on was we're launching a special report today. Yesterday was the PE day, but today during a luncheon, we will look at the PE data in Southeast Asia over the first 9 months of this year. Again, this is going to be a very data-heavy report. If you're an LP in the audience, please head to the luncheon. And if you haven't signed up, just meet our team in the booth so that you can join in. This is during the lunch break today. But at the same time, we'll ensure that every member of the audience here gets a copy of the report. This report was put together by our data team, by my colleagues Andy, Kunal, and Deepshika. So I want to just spend a couple of minutes before we get into the first session to talk about 5 themes that our team has been tracking editorially. Theme number 1, VC fundraising data for Southeast Asia in the first 6 months of 2022. It gives us a lot of optimism for the rest of the year and beyond. Now, let me give you specific numbers. In terms of all the challenges faced, or the funding winter, recession, whatever you call it, Southeast Asia continues to lure LPs because of its long-term favorable macro trends. Southeast Asia-focused VC firms closed 23 funds in the first half of this year. They raised over $3 billion, and this is more than the combined amount that all VCs in Southeast Asia raised last year. Last year, 24 funds raised about $2.5 billion. You can see the numbers on the screen. The record year was in 2019 when Southeast Asia-focused VCs raised about $3 billion, and this year we are definitely set to go well past that numbers. And that's not all. There are 90 VCs who are again Southeast Asia-focused who are on the road to raise about $10 billion in total, and 30% of that target has already been achieved. The second big trend that we are tracking, the significant pullback by global investors is having a severe impact on the late stage rounds. So 2021, as I mentioned earlier, was a record year, but 2022 has been painful so far. Last September, during a virtual event, one of the themes that I highlighted was the speed of decision making by global firms, be it Tiger Global, SoftBank, Naspers, A16Z, DST, Hidosofia, and several others. And they were doing deals at a record pace. But with most of these companies having incurred huge losses because of the tech sell-off in the US and going very slow, this is giving an opportunity for a lot of existing PE firms and growth funds in Southeast Asia. In our coverage, what the work that our reporters are doing, we are increasingly starting to do stories on down rounds becoming common in Southeast Asia. We are seeing a lot of firms do convertible notes in Southeast Asia. Debt is again coming back into the equation in terms of a lot of more companies are raising debt. Companies are exploring M&As, and we're seeing a lot of layoffs. This graphic here shows the unicorn growth in Southeast Asia. If you look at last year, Southeast Asia produced 24 unicorns, and this was more than the unicorns produced over a 10-year period before that. But if you look at the first 9 months of this year, Southeast Asia has only produced 8 unicorns. Again, if you look at India numbers, India produced about 45 unicorns in 12 months of 2021. It's less than half in the first 9 months of 2022. So what are the implications of all of this? The biggest implication is flight to quality. Whether you're a VC raising capital, PE firm raising capital, or a startup growth company raising capital, I think the biggest implication we are seeing is flight to quality. Trend number 3. Last year was when everybody was hiring. It was impossible to find talent in the market. But what is the best way to reduce costs amidst the funding winter? And what we're seeing a lot of companies undertake is they're all, like most of them, even the biggest companies in Southeast Asia and India, they are all doing layoffs. But here's an interesting trend. Despite the layoffs, there is still a shortage of tech talent in Southeast Asia. Let's give you some numbers. When it comes to Southeast Asia, startups here, from our data that we've collected, we've seen that over 4,000 startup employees have lost their jobs. And I think that this is just the start. It's going to get a lot more painful going forward. And in India, startups have hired more than 13,000 employees. And these are just the announced layoffs. Trend number 4 that we're tracking in Southeast Asia. The crypto craze in Southeast Asia, that seems to have no impact despite the crypto funding winter. If you look at globally, the most active crypto markets in the world, there are 4 countries from Southeast Asia. There's Thailand, there's Vietnam, there's Philippines, there's Indonesia. And a market like Indonesia has 2x more crypto traders than stock market accounts. Singapore has over 10% of the population has traded in crypto compared to say 8% in the US. And there are about 650 blockchain Web3 crypto companies headquartered in Southeast Asia. Last year, crypto companies or blockchain Web3 combined, they raised about $1.5 billion in total. This year, we are well set to overtake much higher number. At the end of the year, we'll definitely have a much higher number. And finally, trend number 5, I mentioned this yesterday too. ESG has moved beyond hype. It's gained acceptance among the VC firms and even companies. Every firm that we talk to is either looking to hire a sustainability head or head of ESG, be it growth companies or be it startups. There are several VCs today who are deploying raising and deploying dedicated funds and tracking startups in the addressing ESG and environmental problems. If you just look at Southeast Asia focused VCs and specific funds being raised to ESG and sustainability, VCs here are on the road to raise over $2 billion. Before I conclude, let me take a few minutes just to talk about us and DealstreetAsia and what we've been doing. Last year, we launched our data operations. All of you in the audience, you have a trial access for our data offerings. Do play around with it today and check out our data-led reports. Our Data Vantage, which is a data offering, can help you identify the right kind of companies to invest in and acquire. And if you're a startup, you can look at the shareholding pattern of your competitors. You can look at the funding data, the exact amounts, because we take all of this data from the regulatory filings. And you can also see the financial performance of the companies. We have demos at the DealstreetAsia booth. So if you want more details, please head to our booth. Our team members and our colleagues will take you through the product. We're a subscription media. We'd love to have your support. Please join our exclusive subscriber network to enjoy a lot of benefits. And if you're not a subscriber, please scan the QR code on the tables or on the screen. Thank you so much for your support. The other two things that I want to point out is we have the dates for our Jakarta Summit. It's Jan 12, 2023. We're bringing it back. We didn't have it last 2 years due to COVID. We're bringing it back next year. Please add it to your calendars. And I think Jakarta is important because Indonesia so far is not really seeing a funding winter. Indonesia continues to deliver, and we're seeing a lot of investors, VC startups, head there because that country, in terms of all the economic parameters, despite the global challenges, recession that we're facing, it continues to outperform. We also have the dates for our Singapore Summit next year. It's going to be 3 days, bigger and better. Do add it to your calendar, and we hope to have you all back next year. And finally, I just want to thank all our sponsors. Our summit would not be complete without them. A special thank you to our main sponsors, which is Entra, Regal Capital, EWTP, and DealCloud. Again, I want to call out Red Hill. They've been a sponsor, communications agency, Red Hill. They've been a sponsor for 7 years in a row. Thank you to Jacob and team. And all our sponsors have played a big role in ensuring, making our summit possible. Thank you all for your support. They all have their booths outside. When you have time during the breaks, do head to their booths, talk to them, get to know what they do. Like our MC mentioned, we have lots of time to network, but during the networking breaks, I would also invite all of you to meet our team. The DealstreetAsia team is here from more than 9 countries. Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, India, Pakistan, Hong Kong, and China. Most of our reporters are here. So take the time during the networking breaks, talk to them. This is also the best opportunity to interact with our reporters, exchange story ideas, discuss trends with them. You can talk to our reporters on our work, on our stories, on what are the kind of stories and analysis that you would like us to do. And we would also love to have your feedback in our mission to become indispensable, in the news, data, and analysis we provide to Asia's investors and startup ecosystem. As I leave the stage and I wrap up, I want to leave you all with 5 questions. Let's just go through each of these questions. Question number 1, where are we in the markets today? And these 5 themes will set the agenda for the day. So number 1, where are we in the markets today? Have we hit the bottom? Number 2, how is Southeast Asia doing relative to the rest of the world? Number 3, global investors, be it China, US, India, they're all starting to look at Southeast Asia. And how is this region different from the rest of the world? Number 4, is there still a Series C and D gap in Southeast Asia? And number 5, when will the IPO markets reopen? Even as all of you take a minute to examine these 5 questions, I'm going to call upon Nick Nash, who is the co-founder at Asia Partners, to come up on stage and answer these 5 questions for you. Thank you.